Hello ladies and gents, welcome to this DCS for Beginners video. Today I'm going to be taking you through everything you need to know and a complete walkthrough in around 30 minutes. Hope you enjoy. Using the first link in the video description, it will take you to the DCS World homepage. To download DCS, click on Downloads. Here you're given a few options. You're given DCS World 2.5 and DCS World 2.7 OpenBETA. 2.5 is currently the most stable version of the game, 2.7 is currently the most recent version of the game with all the new additions from Eagle Dynamics. I currently use 2.7 as it has really nice additions such as clouds, and it enables you to use the most up-to-date features of the game, whereas 2.5 is the most stable and has the least amount of bugs, if any. Click on the download link and follow the steps, but make a subfolder called DCS Downloads. We'll go into this later in the video. Put it in here and follow the steps of the installation. Choose the drive that you would like to install this game on. I recommend you install this game on the fastest drive you have. I have an M.2 and therefore it is installed on that. If the game is installed on a slower drive, you may get slow boot times and lots of lag. I've already installed the game, so it's not going to give me this setting. I do understand that some of you wish to download DCS on Steam, as it is again available on Steam as 2.5 and 2.7 OpenBETA. However, the standalone version is far less buggy and you will find that it actually runs a lot smoother than it does on Steam, and it also means that you don't have to have Steam running the whole time when the game is playing. The installation program will offer you two places to install the game: the master folder and the saved games folder. The master folder will be labelled DCS World OpenBETA, and if you have the non-OpenBETA 2.5, it will just be called DCS World. The saved games folder will be labelled DCS.OpenBETA, or if you have the standard 2.5, it will just be called DCS. The saved games folder is where all your personalised information is about the game: your progress, your logbook, etc. This can be installed on a non-essential drive, as this game does not really use much of the data from this. It draws more from the main source master file. However, it is best to have both on your fastest available drive. Now we're going to do some folder streamlining. First of all, go into your drive where your DCS saved games folder is installed. Mine is installed on the M.2. Go to Users, your username, Saved Games, DCS.OpenBETA. This is all your personalised files for the game. First of all, I recommend that you pin this to quick access, so you have it here. After you've pinned it to quick access, I recommend that you pin it to start as well. Once you pin it to start, you can label it whatever you like. I've labelled mine DCS SG, standing for Saved Games. This means that you can quickly access the folder without having to go through the whole directory again. Once you've done this, go to your master folder, which is the DCS World OpenBETA or just DCS World, and repeat the same steps. I mentioned earlier in the video while downloading the DCS from Eagle Dynamics website to create a folder called DCS Downloads. This is so you don't lose track of any of the DCS files that you've downloaded online, as it can be quite difficult to find them if you have a lot of downloads. Once you're in the DCS Downloads folder, repeat the previous steps, pinning to start and quick access. In this folder, create three subfolders: mods, services and updata required. In mods, you want to create another three subfolders: aircraft, campaigns and tech. In services, don't need to touch that because that's the stuff that you'll be downloading later on. And updates required, we'll go back into that later in the video. The mods are literally modifications to the game that you download in addition. These are here so you can keep track of their original files. So for the aircraft mods that I've downloaded, you have the original zip that you can download. This means that in an event of the modification not working, you can reinstall it without having to go online and re-download it again. The campaigns folder is the campaigns that I have downloaded off of the DCS website. You can download these for free and install them into your DCS saved games. Tech purely relates to the tech services in the game to improve certain textures of models which are not aircraft, otherwise they would go into the aircraft subfolder. Services, these are the programs I'll show you to download later on in the video. So if you install them in here, you've got all their master folders with the setups and the zip files so that you don't lose anything. For those of you that are just starting out to use DCS, it is quite a complicated game in terms of all of its folders. It's not so much plug and play. Now when an update comes for DCS, not a major update like a transition between 2.5 and 2.7, I'm talking about all the little updates that they do either weekly or monthly, etc. It will reset the master games folder. This means that it will effectively repair the master games folder where everything core about the game is stored. If you have any script edits or if you have any master folder edits in that game, it will overwrite them. So for example, the F-18 Hornet has the chaff and flare dispensers. Core program in the game sets a certain amount of chaff and a certain amount of flare to be dispensed from the aircraft on the manual program. However, I do not like that manual program, so in this I have rewritten the CMDS file, which allows you to change the dispense amount and programs that are set in the Hornet on startup. This is a device shortcut. I've done this so it's easy for me to update all the necessary modifications that I've done without having to open up certain tabs and go through all the folder and directories. For example, what I did here was I went into the DCS master folder. Now because I've pinned it here, I don't have to go searching for it, so it's already there. Go to mods, aircraft, F-18C, and then here you want to search CMDS. Now this is the CMDS for the F-18 Hornet that you have installed in the game, and what you want to do is you want to go to open file location, and it's here, and all you need to do is create a shortcut for the device, which I've done there, device shortcut, and therefore all you need to do is drag and drop, replace file destination, continue, and that's all updated. So all you need to do every time you have a DCS update, go into your update to required folder and do every single one that you need to do and drag and drop them into the correct folder so that they update in the master game folder. I have a shaders mod because in VR you don't necessarily need to render the full square screen, and therefore in this I go into the shaders and I drag and drop the bazaar into the DCS World OpenBETA, and it already updates it for me. Now we've explored the downloads folder, I'm going to take you through the save games folder and show you pretty much what every folder does. Config is the folder where all your HOTAS and controller inputs are stored, so you can go into a specific aircraft and you have your joystick files here as a LUA file. So in game I'll show you later how to save it into that folder. Next is data, you don't need to touch that. FXO, when you can, every time you enter the folder, Control A and delete everything in that folder because it just slows the game down. Image shop, you don't need to touch. Input layouts text, don't need to touch. This one you do not need to touch. The kneeboard, if you have a mod that you would like to download from the Eagle Dynamics website in a specific kneeboard, you create the folder in the game. The game reads certain folders in here, so when you create a folder such as kneeboard, it will automatically install it into the game and have this on your kneeboard in game. Of course you have to check that the directory is correct, so I checked it and it is kneeboard in capital letters. There will be lots of stuff on forums about this, and if you have any questions just ask in the comments. Another one, for example, is the liveries. This folder was not in here on my original install, and you create this to install liveries that you've downloaded from the Eagle Dynamics page. For example, the KA50, I have an extra livery here which is installed, and all you need to do is put the folder underneath the aircraft name with the correct case. So for example, KA50 will be capital KA-50 and the Hornet is as it is there, and all you need to do is drop the folder after the zip into this. Use the second link in the video description, which is the DCS user files. Here you'll find the unit. So for example, if I go on the F-15C, show, this will give you all the relative mods for the F-15C. Type, and you will go into skin, which is the same as livery, show, and you see this one here, which is the F-15C Mass Effect. You download that, and you can download this straight into your save games folder by going into liveries, F-15C, save. Once that's saved, extract the folder into that, go back into your save games, F-15C, you can delete that as you won't need it anymore, and you'll see here that you have F-15C Mass Effect. Now this will be installed in the game for you to use, and that's it. Next is the logs. If you have any issues with DCS, you can keep these logs so that you can try and find the source of the issue. Meta shaders, again, if there is anything in this folder, delete it upon viewing. Mission editor, you don't really need to touch that. Missions, these are the ones that you have created, so if someone sends you a mission, all you need to do is drag and drop the MIZ file into this folder. So these are the missions that I've created that is in my game, and therefore I can use these and send these to people if they want. The mods, notice how the save games folder and downloads folder replicate some of the similar subfolders. Now in aircraft I have those 3 mods there, and here, you guessed it, I have those 3 mods. So all you need to do, once you've installed the mods and you've extracted them in the downloads file, you just drag and drop them in here and they will be installed to your game. Similarly with tech, and the campaigns in the downloader will go into the missions and campaigns folder here. The reason why it's structured a little bit differently is because that's the way it's structured in the game. Unfortunately, I cannot change that. So now we've entered the Scratchpad folder, which is the custom folder to download. So when you download these files, you drag and drop them into the save games so that it installs. Remember that the save games folder is everything that you're adding to the game that is not stock, and therefore any additions to the game, any mods or services, will be in the save games folder. Using the links on the video description, we're going to download DCS SRS and DCS Twitch to DCS and also DCS Scratchpad. Now the Twitch to DCS and the Scratchpad is for VR users only. Really only a help because in VR you can't access a 2D screen. The Scratchpad you can save information on and it will come up in VR. Similarly, the Twitch to DCS will come up with your Twitch chat in DCS if you need to. So follow the install steps, download the latest release on all of them. On the GitHub, all you need to do is go to code download zip. Download these into the DCS downloads folder in services. As you see there, I have Twitch to DCS and Scratchpad. Once they are installed, in your saved games folder, create a subfolder called Scratchpad and a subfolder called SRS. Extract all the folders from the download and put them in here, and they'll be installed on your game. Screenshots, self-explanatory. Scripts, you do not need to touch that. Sounds, you do not need to touch that. And tracks is just the tracks that you've recorded in the game. It's almost like an internal video recording. If you are ever stuck in the installation, most modifications to DCS will have a readme file inside which will tell you exactly how to install the game. After installing DCS and the save games folder will appear here, I recommend that you copy this whole folder in the save games dcs.openbeta and store a backup on a separate drive. This is my secondary HDD drive where I've made a subfolder called DCS, and I've put another few subfolders here: DCS, save games backup and the master folder backup. The save games backup is more important than the master folder, as the master folder backup is the core game which doesn't really change with your modifications. However, if you do end up modifying the game and it doesn't work, you can simply reinstall from this folder, Control A and delete on the original and paste the backup. Same things with the save games. I've dated mine from the times that I wanted to back them up, that I've made changes. If it doesn't work or something doesn't work in the game, I can simply delete everything in the original folder and paste it with the backup. For people that are intending to use DCS in VR, I have a really nice trick where you can run DCS in 2D mode. For example, if you want to change settings or do a map edit or create a mission where you don't have to do it in VR because it's quite difficult. So what you need to do is you need to go to your DCS master folder. In here you need to search .exe, and here you will find your DCS run.exe. This is the game. And what you need to do here is you need to create a shortcut. Once this shortcut is created, and label it whatever you like. I label it DCS standard and then DCS VR. DCS VR is the original .exe folder, and the DCS standard 2D is modified. Go into properties, bring up the property screen. In target you have your DCS run.exe directory, which is what you would use for VR. After the original directory, do space -- force _ disable _ VR. And once you've done this, it will now run DCS in non-VR mode. By doing this, it means that you do not have to enable and disable the Enable Virtual Reality headset every time you enter and exit the game so that you can use it in 2D mode. Now that you've installed the game, I'm going to go through the home page. So as soon as you click the DCS world, you're presented with the home screen. Starting off at the top, you have your module manager. Now this just shows you all the modules that you have installed, available DLCs, and you can choose whether to uninstall them or install the mods that you own. When you click on the game, you'll be prompted to log in. If you already have a Equal Dynamics DCS World account, you can use that and log in with the game. Next we have the settings page, or the options, and later on in the video we'll go through all these and I'll describe them one by one and tell you what they all mean. And here you have offline mode and logout. This tab just shows you the latest news from Equal Dynamics. And at the bottom here are your DLCs. The ones that you have installed will be coloured and the ones that you do not have installed will be black and white. If you click on it, it will take you to a link to buy it, and that will take you straight to the Equal Dynamics website. However, for the ones you do have installed, you can set the wallpapers and jump straight into Instant Action. Instant Action is a page which showing you all the aircraft mods that you have and pre-made missions by Equal Dynamics where you can jump straight into the aircraft and get straight into the action. Each aircraft has different instant action missions depending on the map as well. Create Fast Mission is where you can ask the game to generate a mission for you based on certain parameters. So for example, you can go to Syria, select the aircraft KA-50, your task, what you're going to do, so anti-ship strike, your country of origin, Russia, how many wingmen you'd like, start from, this is where you're starting in the game, airborne is obviously airborne, the runway is starting and the threshold of the runway, ramp is parking, and random is obviously a random selected from that drop down list. Enemy AI skill is here, which determines the skill of the enemies that you're fighting against in the game. Theatre of War is your map, season self-explanatory, weather self-explanatory, start time self-explanatory. Historical relates to mainly World War II mods, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. And here you have your vehicles, and you can decide whether you have none, minimum, medium, maximum and random. And once you do this, you click Generate Mission. Now that this is generated, it will randomly select an airfield to take off from if you haven't pre-selected one first. If you click on it before the Generate Mission, it will pre-select that airfield to take off from or start from. And here it will give you a mission overview of what's going on, your tasking, what weapons you have, your allied flight, situation, objective, the known threats. This is your enemy vehicles, which can include aircraft, ground units, SAM and AAA. This will give you your weather with your temperature, etc. And this gives you your takeoff frequency for the runway that you're starting on. If you'd like to further edit this page, go to Edit Mission, and in this Edit Mission page you are allowed to alter the mission parameters of the generated mission that the game has rendered for you. So you can move certain vehicles and change their tasking. Next we have the mission page, which shows you the pre-made missions by Equal Dynamics for the certain aircraft that you own. The base game will include two aircraft, which includes the SU-25T and the T-51 trainer. There are no missions for the T-51 trainer, but there are missions for the SU-25T, as shown here. You have the campaign for every specific aircraft that you have, the multiplayer page, which we'll go through later, your aircraft logbook, which shows you your flying hours and kill to death ratio, etc. The Encyclopedia. Now this shows you every vehicle in the game with their stats and information, so you can select any random vehicle, for example the F-16C, and it will give you all the information on their aircraft. Then you can switch to helicopters, ships, ground vehicles, weapons, air defences, personnel assets and miscellaneous. For example, if you want to know the stats of a certain weapon or missile, you can go down to, for example, AGM-65H, the Maverick missile, and this will give you all the information, its range, weight, length, etc. Next you go on to your training. So if you're new to the game, I recommend that you do training for any mod that you install. As said before, TF51 will have the familiarization and the certain training that you need to use to be able to fly it. These training missions will tell you everything you need to know on how to operate the aircraft. Replay will just replay the tracks that you've recorded in game. Now we move on to the mission editor and the campaign builder. The mission editor will give you a blank slate of the theatre of war that you have chosen, and now you can add certain vehicles to generate your mission. For example, if I wanted to do a ground attack mission, click on the aircraft and I have A10A, and I want to start it, the A10 from the Hammer Airport, taking off from the runway. You can see here that these are the same country, and therefore this aircraft would not attack this ground based vehicle. To see the vehicle here, you go into this page here which gives you the vehicle visuals. So you go into Russia for example, and I'll go into armor, select the vehicle type, T90 tank. You can select its skill. You need to click on the aircraft here, and this will give you a visual of the aircraft as well, and you can select the weapon loadouts of the aircraft. Close air support and all the other tasks will generate certain loadouts from this menu. For example, if you want to do a ground attack, it will now generate different loadouts to have. All you do now is you click add, and you can add certain waypoints for the aircraft to follow in game, or if you decide to actually fly this as player, it will come up in your navigation system as each waypoint is placed. Now the last waypoint, you go to edit, advanced waypoint actions, add, perform task. Now you do attack map object, and you can move that object to over the vehicle that you want to attack, and the A10 should follow the waypoints and attack that vehicle. You can edit the waypoints, altitude and speed, and then the aircraft will follow that. So on 6 you have flyover point, landing and fuel, so you can add now another waypoint back to the airfield where it will land, and it will snap to the airfield runway. Now if you want to change the position of the A10, you can tell it to start from ramp, and it will now start in the ramp taxiway, and from here you can change where the aircraft is stored. From here you go to file and save and name it what you would like to name it, and you can change different map settings such as the weather, triggers, mission goals, battlefield commanders, mission options and the coalitions. Once you've done that, you can save it again and click this green button to fly the mission, or exit mission editor to go back to the main menu. Campaign builder is similar to the mission editor, where you upload the missions that you've made and it will generate one whole campaign which will show in the campaigns page. Now we move on to the options of DCS. This can be quite complicated and it's very much depending on your own personal preference. I have currently set these settings on mine that work well on VR, and I actually do need to do a little bit more modifications on these, but these are my base settings. Textures, terrain textures, these are what you see in game and how they're rendered. Civilian traffic, this includes things like buses, cars and people in the game. Water, self-explanatory. The visible range is the range of what you can actually see out the cockpit and how far it's rendered. Heat blur is the heat blur coming out of the engines. Shadows is the shadows casting from objects. The resolution, now this doesn't really matter so much in VR, but if you play on a screen, this will be the resolution of your game and how many monitors you'd like the game to be displayed on. Resolution of cockpit displays will be the resolution inside the cockpit, which will be different to everything else in the game. VR, you can set this to 256 as it is independently done in the VR settings. These you can search on DCS forums, these will go into more depth about this. Cluster and grass, which is the rendered textures of cluster and grass in the game, and then you can choose how far you want them to go up or down in terms of their quality. Same for the forest visibility and all these going down here. Terrain object shadows you can keep at flat or default. Global cockpit illumination doesn't really do anything, so you can keep that as off, and I recommend that you have rain droplets on because it's quite nice if it's raining, and everything else you can leave as off unless you play as a 2D mode where you can select full screen. Just remember that every single one that you do here will affect the performance, and that DCS is a massive RAM hog, and that everything that you change will affect the performance and how smoothly you fly. Next you have the controls page where you can select the specific aircraft that you want to change the controls for. So if I was going to go into the F-86 saver, it will give you all the controllable buttons and switches that you can do in game, and you can map this to your HOTAS. For example, if you want to change the axes, you go into axes assign, and you see here that you have the pitch and roll on the win-win stick, and when I move the stick it will show you the axes working. If you would like to further tune this, you click on it and you'd go on axes tune, and this will actually show you what's happening in the axes. Furthermore, you can go into the drop down menu and select certain subfolders to find certain things. For example, if you wanted to go into the fuel system and you wanted to map a button to jettison the fuel tanks, all you'd need to do is click add, press the button on your HOTAS, and it will do it there. And furthermore, you can add a modifier as well if you do not have many buttons to use. Once you've done all your mappings to your HOTAS system, you can save the profile as, and as mentioned previously in the video, this is in your save games folder. You want to go into config, input, and select the aircraft that you do, the joystick, and then you want to save it under, for example here I have the wing throttle, so now I'd want to save it as the wing throttle base. Additionally, if you'd like to load a profile that you've done from a previous DCS setup, you do repeat the same steps. The gameplay menu will let you decide on certain factors that happen in game. If you have a Russian aircraft that has Russian markings, you can actually select it to be in English or your native game language. So if you do not want it to say English, you click native and it would display all the Russian markings themselves. Again, you can change the units from imperial to metric, GFX to game or simulation. Labels, these are labels that are around every vehicle in the game. To start off, you can have these to help you with your situational awareness. However, for some servers do not allow any labels. Miscellaneous will be related to certain programs in the game. So for example, your different view angles, your player external views, random system failures and stuff like that. Here you have your coordinate display. So if you view in the F10 live map menu, it will display the vehicles with a lat long decimal or whichever ones you want to select. Next you go into audio. I suggest that you actually select the audio device that you want the output and input. If you click default, it could possibly change. Special, this will now display your mods that you've installed, so your aircraft will have particular settings that you'd wish to change. In addition to this, you can see here that these are some of the modifications that I have installed from the download links. So here is my Twitch account, and this, once you've entered your details, this will display in game. Similarly with SRS, this will show you your SRS page and install it correctly in game. Now going on to your VR settings, if you play in VR, you will have enabled the VR headset, and your pixel density is pretty much self-explanatory. The higher you go, the lower your performance will be and the higher the quality will be. Then you can change your preference to the VR in game and how it all works. Lastly, we're going to look at the multiplayer menu. So here you're brought up with the menu of all the different servers in DCS. So this is your current version of DCS that you're playing. Here you've got your password and protection. So your password, if you select yes, it means that you're only going to show up servers that have password for access, and no obviously means that the server is free to join. The protection is yes and no. This will be protection against cheating and certain mods that DCS players use. So your players, you can select from how many players you want minimum to maximum. So for example, if you want the server to have a minimum of 5 players but a maximum of 15, it's then going to show you the server list with that after you click refresh. The max ping, you can also select that. The ping refers to the distance between your PC and the server location. So for example, here in the UK you're going to have a lower ping, which is 41, and if you go to a server in China, you're going to have a much higher ping, 301, which means your connection is going to be a lot less stable. After this, you can then pre-select your map and your region of where the server will be held. So if I want to do a map in Syria and I want the region to be in Europe, you can search, and there you go. Also, you can search for a server if you've joined a Discord or you found one online that you want to play on, and you can also use your favourites that you've pre-selected in the server list. To create your own server, you click New Server, and here you'll be given the choice to customise your own server. So that is your server name, your password, player limit, the public IP which people can use to join, the port, and your selection if your server is displayed on the public list. You can also do an integrity check, and you do have advanced options as well. And here you can upload your specific missions. So you click the plus sign and you go into the missions that you've created, add them, click OK, and then once you've clicked that, you click start and your mission will be loaded up, but in a public server. That means that other people can join. When creating a mission to play online on your own server, you can select your aircraft and ensure that the aircraft will have the client skill selected. This means that people that join can choose to jump into this aircraft. If you choose any of the above on client, it means the aircraft will not be controllable, and if you click player, it means that only you can use this aircraft. In this instance, you can have various different types of aircraft or even helicopters, and you can all set them to client, which means that when you come into the loading screen of the server, you can select which role you'd like to use from the client list. We've now covered everything in the DCS World homepage. Once you fire up your mission, either in single player or multiplayer mode, if you've selected client for your aircraft on the map, it means you get the option to choose which aircraft you'd like to jump into. So once you select the aircraft and click fly, you can then have some in-game options. In-game options consist of ATC and ground crew for the time being. ATC means you can contact all the airfields that are in the area, and the one at the top is the closest. So if you want to contact Ramat David Airfield and request a startup,
Enfield 1-1, request startup.
the ATC will reply to you if it is a friendly
Enfield
airfield.
1-1, clear for startup.
You can then choose further options in the ATC menu as you go through them. So request a taxi to runway, and then it will be request takeoff. Once you're airborne, you can then request to land. The next option you have is the ground crew, and you have rearm and refuel. Here you can rearm and refuel your aircraft. So you have your fuel, gun ammo, flare and chaff. This will differ between every aircraft. You can also select pre-made loadouts from Eagle Dynamics, and you can select certain liveries if you have them installed. You can also change your tail number, and then specifically select the weapons that you would like on the aircraft if you wish to do so. Once you click OK,
Request rearming. Copy.
the ground crew will either comply or not comply. From there, it will take some time to reload the aircraft, but they will do it eventually.
Rearming complete.
Some aircraft will not allow you to rearm or refuel when the aircraft engines are running, and therefore you must spool the engines down until they are completely at zero to be able to rearm and refuel. The SU-25T is one of these aircraft. Other options in the ground crew menu consist of ground electric power and request repair. Ground electric power is for aircraft that do not have its own onboard starters and that require ground electrical power. All you need to do is ask the ground crew to go on, and once you've finished, turn off. Request repair means that if your aircraft is damaged or needs repair, you can click this repair button and your aircraft will be repaired at the airbase. This can take some time. If you wish to change your aircraft, all you need to do is go click escape, change slot and select the aircraft you wish to jump into. In the escape menu you also have different options such as the manual, control adjustment, in-game options, quit to desktop and quit. That sums up the video today. I appreciate that I may not have covered everything, so if you have any questions or any suggestions for my next video, please leave in the comment section. Make sure you like and subscribe. Silverback signing off.